Before I left for Japan, I was super excited. We were in the MTC for 9 weeks, so I was ready to get out. But I was also terrified because I was like, whoa, I don't know the language. I can't really speak to these people. So we go to Japan. It was really fun because you get to fly with your district a lot of times, and you're all kind of pumped together. And you get off the plane and you're all there together, and the mission president and the assistants greet you. And the first thing I noticed was, like, you get there and I arrived in July and it was hot and sticky and humid, and you're just like, oh my gosh. But I mean, and I was exhausted. There were so many of us during that time that we all got on a bus. They put our stuff in the bus, and we got on a huge coach bus and went around, and I tried to look around, and Japan was not what I expected to be. There were a ton of buildings and it was super crowded. For some reason, I was like thinking of the little, the Japanese, shrines. And it wasn't, it was different. It was a little more industrialized. But I was exhausted on the bus. I kind of slept a little bit. And that first day, it was just like a half a day left when we got there. We had dinner together with the mission presidents, and it's a fun time to or with the mission president and his wife, and it's a fun time to get to know them and to talk to them, and you get to eat some good food. And then we went to bed. We did some orientation stuff, and we all struggled to stay awake. We were like standing up. We had to stay awake and like tipping over. It was great. The next day, I was terrified because I was like, who's going to be my companion? Like, is she going to be crazy? Is she not? Or, like, I don't even know. Is she going to be American? Is she going to be Japanese? It'd be awesome if she was Japanese because then I can learn the language, but at the same time, I wouldn't be able to communicate with her. So it's just like this thing. I got in a companionship. I was in a threesome, and one companion was Korean. One was American. She was my trainer. So the one who was Korean was a second transfer, and then there was me. And we got our stuff. We went through, like, I don't know, they kind of told us, and they put us on our way. We shipped off our luggage. They had this really nice thing. We didn't have to carry our luggage. They have a system that kind of takes our luggage for us. And we got on the train. We got there, and that night we had a lesson. No time to unpack. You get to work right away. And we had a lesson that night. Luckily, it was in English. I was so blessed to have it be in English. But we're waiting at the church for him, and there's some members there, and they're speaking to me, and they're asking where I'm from, and I'm just like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. I had no idea anything, what they were saying. Our first lesson, it was later at night. It started around 8, and he spoke English, but with a very thick African accent. And I was just struggling. My eyes were bloodshot. I couldn't even stay awake. And like the investigator was like, are you okay? You gonna make it? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. But every day, let's see, that was the biggest thing. Talking to people was really hard. Talking to people on the streets was really hard, especially, I mean, it's nerve-wracking in English, but then you do it in a language you don't know. The hardest thing is that I was afraid of is if I asked a question, because I could memorize something and be like, oh, have you ever thought about this? Or have you ever thought that you have a loving Heavenly Father? And I could memorize that and say it in Japanese. But if they were to respond to me, I'd be like, I don't know what they just said. Like, someone's going to have to take over from here. And yeah, that was a really hard thing. It took me a while to get over that. I probably struggled through it my entire mission. It's hard every time, but it gets a little bit easier, and you can do it, especially once you know the language. Then you have that much more confidence that you can carry on a conversation with someone. But you get to work. You're up from 7:30 and you come, or 6:30, and you come back and you plan at 9. The summers there are extremely hot and humid. Extremely hot and humid. It was the hottest summer, the summer that I got there. It was the hottest summer they'd had for 100 years. And so it was extremely hot, but it was good.